We're going to go through 3.4, and then the next part that I'm going to introduce is kind of an activity that'll kind of work everything together. Okay? So 3.4 is intellectual and art slides. Art can also be architecture as well. Okay? This is intellectual for the Mayans. I'm going to turn the light off so you can actually see what I'm doing here.
Not the first.
First? Not first. I usually turn off the front lights, not all of them, but we're going to do both, so hopefully you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so if you have, I would pull out the intellectual document. Make sure you have that one in front of you. Okay, I'm going to talk about the Mayans. This is exactly what is on the reading. Wow, that's crazy, Mr. Perkins. Why did you put the exact thing you're going to talk about in front of me to have me look at it as well? Crazy, right? I know. Okay, we talked about this a little bit at the very beginning of the unit, but I want to really focus in on the intellectual part and like the art or architecture. For intellectual, especially here for the Mayans, we know that they're known for a few things here. Okay, so if you're going to write this also in your Persian note sheet, I would recommend that. But make sure you are looking at the intellectuals for the Mayans on your worksheet as well, because I might be able to point you at some things here. Some people had some questions around the classes we were going through this on the readings. In terms of mathematics and calendars, this is probably the biggest part for the Mayans right now. Okay, they had this crazy accurate calendar, like never before seen. Kind of wild. Okay, they had this calendar that was like way accurate down to, there was even a 365-day calendar. How many days are in a year now? 365.25. Yeah, that's pretty accurate, right? Okay, but the big pieces here, and I know this part is in your reading, talking about the stars and the writing system, it kind of works them in together. Okay, the big idea here is, right, because they were so accurate looking at the stars, a lot of what they did in their society reflected that. Okay, so they would take record of that. That happens to work with their writing system. Remember, their writing system was a bunch of images, hieroglyphs. Okay, so if they were telling me, all right, the stars looked like this, and that tells us that we need to position our society to face this direction. This is part of one of your questions, right? That's that critical or that deeper thinking question that I gave you, that thought-provoking question. Right? They aligned a lot of what they were doing based on what they were reading in the stars. Why? When you're that accurate, you're following, like, this is why people who could read the stars were so important. Okay? If you were able to align your civilization with what the stars, what you were reading with the stars, you were considered more accurate there. And that kind of reflects in their writing system as well. Cool. Recording down that data also backs up that their observations were accurate. Okay, and then that kind of influences as well. That influences their religious knowledge as well that we talked about previously. Cool. Are we ready to move on a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the Incas a little bit. This was one of my favorite parts about the whole like intellectual part for all three of them. I talked about this right away. The quipu. That was a series of strings and knots they used for record keeping. Okay. I don't have the questions out in front of me, but I know some of the questions. What was one of the questions on there? Someone read me one of them from their document. Yasmin, go ahead.
What three types of information did the Inca use the quipu knotted strings to record?
What did they use the quipu for? It was record keeping. They'd do it for data, for population. If people owed payments, they'd do it for taxes. And any events that happened throughout their society, the quipu was used to record that. So I just gave you an answer for that question. That's also written right there. Like I have, these are the exact slides that you're reading from.
Well, it's like that thing that they used in Seoul when they're counting like the dead people.
That's interesting.
This, like the movie Soul. When, like,
I have never seen this movie, but I know what you're talking about.
Abacus.
Gotcha. Could be. It's similar. A lot of people used various different forms. Like the Mayans used hieroglyphs for like record keeping and for writing down information. The Incas used the quipu. I also just explained something you could do in your CER right there. Wow. Both had writing systems. How did they work? Tell me how they worked. Okay?
Organizations.
It's wild. Organization
I wouldn't
systems.
say it
Yeah.
keeps writing.
Right. Or record system.
Yeah.
Okay, they're also very well known for their medicine. Okay, we talked about, I had a student on, what day was it yesterday? Tuesday, that's right, Tuesday, talking about coca plants, coca leaves. And I found out that in order to use these, they would chew on them, which I think that's a fascinating fact about this anesthesia part. Okay.
So if I just chew on a coca leaf, how would that just knock out?
It'd be like similar to that. It would kind of like calm you way down. Yeah.
Yeah, they said it would help with altitude sickness.
Yeah. Yeah. You have another question?
Yes, locally for pain relief. One of the questions have, what did they use for pain relief?
I would say understanding that they were using natural processes. The coca leaves is part of that, right? If you use those to kind of like completely calm down, they were able to help you with other medical purposes. They also used herbal remedies. That's plants. Cool. And then we talked about this a few times. This is going to appear for their English is hard. Artistic part as well. They were quite the engineering genius as well. A lot of what they did was able to withstand natural disasters. For the Aztecs, they also had a record-keeping system. This is where I pause for dramatic effect again. Okay,
Dun, dun, dun.
that'd be a good one for your CEO right there. They all have a writing system or a record-keeping system of some sort. Okay, theirs was again more picture-based. Who else had a similar record-keeping system? Not the Incas. The Mayans. What did the Mayans use? Say it again. Hieroglyphs. These guys use pictures. Not the same, but similar, right? They also were very, very accurate with their stars and calendars. They were able to look at the stars and then make a calendar based on that. Who else is that similar to? Oh my goodness. That's kind of wild. Okay, but they're also well known for their city design. We talked about their capital city being in the middle of a lake. Doesn't happen very often, right? That's a big deal. That's a big intellectual achievement. Being able to place yourself strategically in the middle of a lake for your capital of your civilization, pretty good.
If I'm remembering right, I think one of the tour people that like tour you around
Tour
the
guides.
coast, yeah, said that it's kind of slowly sinking.
That it's currently sinking.
Yeah, like slowly, especially because it's built on water.
Yeah, right. I mean, the way that they built the island, like they had to drag mud and like they've expanded it themselves. So if they don't have a firm foundation underneath it, eventually it probably will start sinking. Yeah. So I'm not surprised by that. That's a good point. Thank you for adding that. All right. That's what I got for intellectual. Are we ready to move on to art? No. All right, we're going to do it anyway. Are you ready?
Yes.
And then we'll come back. I'll give you another chance to work on that, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about art and architecture for the Mayans. There's a lot of writing here. Don't try to force all of this into a text box. It's not going to happen. I'm going to explain what I would have down here, okay? A lot of the Mayans, we talked about how they use hieroglyphs for their intellectual pieces. A lot of their art is very symbolic. It wasn't only writing in symbols or drawing in symbols. It also had a purpose in their religion and in their politics. Okay, they had different expressions in their art. Okay, they would carve out sculptures or even stone like faces like this that were commemorating rulers or maybe in remembrance of something. They would always also use those to highlight important events. Okay, these carvings might have like a mythological scene. Does anybody know what mythological means? Brendan, what do you think?
It's like somewhat fake history.
Would it be fake or would it be like a story based?
Well, yeah.
Story based.
I mean, like a fictional.
Right. I would say be careful with the fake because a lot of cultures are built around mythology. It might be a myth to you, but to them that's their whole culture. You know what I mean? What?
Like the Greeks.
Right. Yeah, that's a good example. The Greeks would be a good example. They believe that's a part of their religion. So mythological While some might think that's more of a myth, other people saw that as logical. Whoa. Big brain right there, right? Myth, logical. Man,
You just unlock some brain cells.
I need like a TV show or something, right?
I think you should.
Absolutely not. Anyway, they use a lot of color in their murals, in their palaces, and in their English is hard today. They use a lot of color. Okay. They did a lot of work with ceramics and used like jade carvings, and they had lots of fancy jewelry. Remember that? Remember this part right here?
Julie.
The jewelry, because we have another group that also uses jewelry for a lot of their society. If you had to guess, who do you think I'm going to compare that one to? Say it louder, Elise. The Aztecs. Remember their tribute system for the Aztecs. Keep that in mind, okay? We're on the Mayans right now, but keep that in mind. And then their architecture, we have their pyramids, right? They got some fancy pyramids. They're pretty cool looking. They have a lot of space in their plazas or their like city centers, okay? And then they have these different courts and palaces as well. This is another part of the Mayans. I would understand their written language is a big deal for them. How they display their information. Obviously, this is not right. This is just an example of what written language looks like, the picture, okay? But the written language, why would you want to keep record of who's in charge, or maybe trying to depict what the genealogy looks like? What is a genealogy? What? Family history. If you are the royal family, would you, if you kept record of that, would people be able to challenge you on that because you have a written document or written down? It'd be a little bit harder. They might try, but it'd be a little bit harder to challenge your power. Okay, that's one of the questions on your document there. Why is their written language so important? Okay, being able to depict that. This is one of Mr. Way's favorites, the ball game.
Oh, yes.
Would you like to jump in on the ball game there?
Sure. What do you want me to say about it?
What part of it sticks out the most to you? The ball
I think
game.
the biggest thing is this ball game was going on for like 200, 300, 400 years. And if you look at like how much football or basketball has changed,
Yeah.
you kind of see that this was like a public spectacle that didn't have like basic rules, but
Yeah.
like each area did it a little differently. And at times they used this as a proxy for war. Because if you're looking at the Mayans, they did not have a single central ruler. So if I was upset with Finn's people, we could either fight to the death, or we could just send some people to play. Exactly. Take like their version of an athletic tic-tac-toe.
Right. All
Yeah,
right.
So I thought it was that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And sometimes you would like sacrifice the losers.
That's where I was gonna jump in and add that.
Which
But
is really crazy when we had a students versus staff basketball game,
Yeah.
and a whole bunch of freshman students started chanting like, essentially like, "We're gonna get you, Mr. Way. Once you lose, we're gonna sacrifice you."
Oh, boy.
oh,
Nice.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it was kind of the bloodthirstiness of the freshmen came out at that moment. Mhm.
Guys, are we thirsty?
Yeah, I would just say understanding like this was more than just a game for the Mayans. Okay, it was more than
It was
just a
life
game
or
for them.
death.
Right? Sometimes it could. Right? This last part here. Sometimes if you lost in that game, you were the subject of sacrifice for them.
How does the winners?
Huh?
How does the winners get like that?
Defeated players, people who lost. Okay. Dance and music is also huge, right? They had ritual dances for the religious ceremonies, or if they were trying to tell stories, a lot of that was done through music or dance. It's a very fascinating piece there, right? You don't see that as often now.
They still do that.
Yeah, that's why that culture is like some cultures try to preserve that. It's pretty cool. Okay. All right, let's jump into the Incas here. Lots of things going on here. We talk about their architecture a lot, and I've mentioned that a lot. Okay. If I've mentioned it a lot, it's probably important, right? The architecture is a big deal. They're also well known for their textiles, metalworks, and ceramics. Okay. Just because they're making textiles, which are usually for fine garments or wool garments, right? Or metal, which is like exquisite. They're using like these fancier metals. Just because they're using that doesn't mean that it's for decoration. Okay, it communicated a status. We talked about this a little bit with jewelry for the Mayans, right? They used fancy jewelry as a status piece. The Incas used art or ceramics or textiles. Okay? That was a status thing, it was a religious thing, it was a cultural identity thing. Okay? If you understand status was maintained through these things, you'll be good. Okay, that's another part of your CER piece that you could use there. If we talk about the Aztecs, I'm also going to mention the jewelry right away just to keep that linear conversation going, right? They also thought that this was used, they would use exquisite jewelry. What you were wearing kind of told the story of where you sat on that social structure, okay? But they also had some very crazy looking architecture, which was really cool. We had talked about how like you're not even allowed to touch these anymore because unfortunately there are people like you can get like these tours and stuff of the grounds of them. A lot of people unfortunately vandalize historical landmarks. Okay.
Like take a chip of like.
Yeah, like
take a
we'll
chip
literally
of,
break it.
Yeah.
I know I've read some stories where people like climbed them and tried to get into the inside of the tops of them to try to steal whatever was inside.
How would they get back in?
How would they get back down?
Out.
You go in, you go out.
Oh.
But I can't read that. I see something about destroyed.
Ancient Mayan pyramid destroyed for road fill.
Yeah.
Road fill.
Sad.
I mean,
Right.
they said like, especially in southern Mexico, there's a lot of these where it's not nearly as big as that architecture right there.
Yeah.
But in southern Mexico, like you have very few government limits on what like companies can do, and they're building a road and they need something to like crush up and make concrete and gravel, and
Mhm.
they just looked at this, big hill, 2,300-year-old Mayan pyramid was destroyed in Belize in order to make fill for roads.
Yeah. So it's important to like if you ever get to travel and see any architecture that not just for the Mayans, Incas, Aztecs, but like any culture,
Don't
right?
touch
It's important to like view it, take it in, don't take anything from it. Leave it there.
It's like if you disrespect the thing, you're disrespecting the people.
Yeah, that's a very good point. At least what you got.
Oh, we went to the Great Wall of China a few years ago, and then we're going next year. Anyways, a bunch of people, all like people were like throwing rocks at like the heads of the dudes.
Mm.
Like the creepy, they're really creepy.
Right. Yeah.
But like,
Shouldn't do
Yeah. Like, should you be doing that?
no.
Probably not. Right. So that's a big part of that. That is what I have for you for the slideshow. I have one more thing I want to go over, and then I'm going to give you a little break. Cool? I'm going to take us to where we're going. This is the next part of today, what we're going to probably be doing for the rest of the class period. Okay? And then if it carries over into the beginning of test day, it does. Okay? Give me a second to get over to where I need to get to. If you go back to Canvas, okay, if it loads, click on 3.5. Crisis
Can I
Day.
finish the 3.4
You will get to finish it on your own time.
like today?
It's due Friday. Okay, I need you to click into 3.5 and click on 3.5 Crisis Event. This is what it should look like. All right. I'm going to read through this, and then I'm going to give you a break. Cool? All right. This one, you don't need to write anything down. I just need your attention. So if you could, close your laptops for just a minute. You can look at this one up here, or just look at this one with me. Okay? Okay. So this is the final piece of what we've been doing. We've done a couple. We did one for the political and economics
5 seconds in,
characteristics.
7 seconds out.
Right. We did one for religious and social. We did not do one for the intellectual and art. I'm going to work this into this one. Okay? This is the final prompt for where we're going. And this is kind of our transitional piece out of Unit 3 as well a little bit, to kind of get you to think about where we're going. Okay? This bold part up here is the prompt. I'm going to read that. That's right up here. And then I will explain what's going on here. Okay? And this will be kind of a group work thing for the rest of the day. This is your prompt. 3.5, Crisis Day. Which of the civilizations, this is the Mayans, Incas, Aztecs, obviously, that we've discussed over Unit 3, would be most likely to succeed in the face of a foreign force landing on the shores of their region looking to conquer them? Foreign force means outsiders trying to come in, take everything, right? Conquering, they're trying to take it over. They want it. They want it to be theirs now. Consider, with this conquering force, that there could be foreign diseases or attacks coming from any and all angles in this situation. Okay? Your job is to work through these. Okay? I have grouped them differently. Notice that this is political and social, not political and economic. Okay? You want to try to answer these questions for each of them. It's not going to be crazy hard. I'm just asking you to, we're putting all of the pieces together now. If you look at their political structure and their social structure, if they have people coming in trying to take over, how do they keep their structure? These are things I want you to think about. You'll be working with your groups for this one. Okay? And these are the questions. They're the same 3 questions for each. This is what we're doing with it. Survival ranking. You're going to try to rank these 3 civilizations most likely to survive this attack to least likely. This does not mean least likely like is completely falling off the map. We're just saying who, in your opinion, your group's opinion, who comes out on top. Here's the next part of that, though. You have to be ready to explain these rankings against other groups. So if this group says the Aztecs are the most likely to survive this threat, why? Right? And if Brendan's group over here says that the Incas, tell us why the Aztecs outlast the Incas. And if you can rebuttal against them and be like, actually, I think it's these guys because of this, right? Why did you put the civilizations where you did in the ranking? Why is this your number 1? Why is this your number 3? Are we following a little bit, like where I'm going with this? Okay, this prompt, this whole document is open so that you can see it as well. What Persia points, so which of the characteristics makes your group stronger? Which makes the other groups weaker? This is why they would lose. This is why this group would win, right? We're going to do like a quick draw type. This is going to be a little bit different, okay? I want you to you're going to put all 3 of them and rank them. And I want you to put something of their Persia analysis, for one of them, for each of them. Which one makes the most sense for why this group succeeds? Which one is why they might not succeed for the group that you say is number 3? Does that make sense? Okay. And then in this presentation, I kind of already said that. You're explaining what you see. Why'd you put them where you put them? Compare them. The Aztecs do human sacrifice. This is how they would get the gods on their side or something like that. The Incas don't necessarily do that. They would more pray and like lean into that hope that they would help them. Maybe that's one of your comparisons, right? Be able to explain it. But remember, this is the biggest part that I'm looking for, and this is how 3.5 is going to be worth 5 points because it's a participation thing. Everybody in your group must participate. If I only hear 2 of your voices, you're losing out on points, okay? This is the last part of Unit 3. Whatever time is remaining after this, I will give you to work on 3.4. You can ask some questions, and then I have that 4-question form that you can do at any point. Cool? That is what I got for you, okay? I'm going to give you a little bit of a break, and then I want to start looking at this. Cool? All right, take a second. Breathe. I know it's dark in here, so you're like, it's bedtime. Here we go.